We've all been there, right? You're cruising down the highway and bam, a sea of brake lights. Miles and miles of them. You end up crawling along for what feels like forever, only to find out the whole thing was caused by a tiny fender bender that's already gone. That frustration? It's just a tiny piece of a huge, invisible problem, one with a truly shocking price tag.
$160 billion. Just let that sink in. That is what traffic congestion costs the U.S. economy every single year. It's an absolutely massive number, but believe it or not, the real cost is something we feel a lot more personally.
Yeah, this isn't just about dollars and cents. Wrapped up in that $160 billion is almost 7 billion hours of our lives, just gone, wasted sitting in a car. Oh, and it's also over 3 billion extra gallons of fuel just pointlessly burned, polluting the air. So you see, fixing traffic isn't just about making our commutes easier, it's a massive economic and environmental challenge.
So how in the world do you even begin to tackle a problem this big? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the surprising science behind it all. We'll look at what really makes up a traffic jam, the mission to build a kind of crystal ball for our highways, the crazy challenge of predicting how long an accident will last, the weird mystery of something called the capacity drop, and finally, how we can turn all that prediction into real-world action.
All right, first up, let's really get to the heart of the matter. We usually blame traffic on rush hour, right? The daily grind. But what if I told you the biggest cause of gridlock is something way more unpredictable?
So get this, it turns out about half of all traffic delays aren't from your normal everyday commute. They're what the experts call non-recurring. They're caused by random, temporary screw-ups. And the number one cause, responsible for a full quarter of all congestion, traffic incidents. We're talking crashes, breakdowns, even just debris on the road.
And here's something you probably never thought about. An incident isn't just one thing that happens. It's a whole timeline, a process with 4 key stages. First, you've got detection. Someone has to find out it even happened. Then comes response. That's the emergency crews showing up. Next is clearance, which is all about getting the road open again. And finally, there's recovery, when traffic finally, hopefully, gets back to normal. For the folks managing our highways, making each phase of this timeline shorter is the name of the game.
Okay, so if it's all about managing that timeline, how can we do it better? Well, the big goal here is to stop reacting to incidents and start predicting them, to basically build a crystal ball for our highways.
And this brings us to the really cool idea at the center of the research we're diving into today, a Traffic Incident Management Support System, or a TIM system for short. You could think of it like an AI-powered assistant for traffic managers. It crunches a ton of data to give them solid, real-time predictions about what's about to happen on the road.
Now, this whole complicated system really just boils down to answering 2 seemingly simple but actually incredibly hard questions. First, how long is this mess going to take to clear? And second, just how bad is this going to screw up traffic? If you can nail the answers to those 2 questions, you've got a real game changer. So let's dig into that first question, because trying to predict how long an incident will last, it's way harder than it sounds.
I mean, it seems straightforward, doesn't it? A crash happens, you time how long it takes to clear it up. Why can't we just, take an average of all the past incidents? Well, it turns out the data itself is hiding a tricky little secret.
This chart shows the problem perfectly. The data is what's called right-skewed. See that huge mountain of data on the left? That tells us that most incidents, the vast majority, get cleared up pretty fast. But then you have that long, flat tail stretching out to the right. Those are the outliers, the big, nasty incidents that can take hours and hours to clear. If you try to calculate a simple average, those few outliers completely wreck the result, making it totally useless for prediction.
So to get around this, the TIM system uses this really clever 3-part strategy. As soon as an incident is reported, it gives an interval estimate, basically a time range, like this will probably take 30 to 60 minutes. Then, as more details come in from the scene, it narrows that down to a point estimate, a single, much more accurate number, like 45 minutes. And, this is the really important part, it's constantly running an outlier analysis in the background, checking to see if this incident is starting to look like one of those rare, super long nightmares.
Okay, so the system has a smart way to predict how long. Now, what about that second critical question? How bad? This is where we get into some really fascinating and honestly kind of weird traffic science.
So let me ask you a quick question. Imagine a 4-lane highway. There's an accident and it blocks 1 lane, so now you're down to 3.
Does that mean the highway's capacity, the number of cars it can handle, drops by 25%? I mean, it's simple math. 1 out of 4 is 25%, right?
Well, the surprising and kind of frustrating answer is no. The road's ability to move traffic actually drops by way more than 25%. And understanding this is key to figuring out why traffic jams can get so bad so fast. This weird effect is called the capacity drop. Basically, as soon as a queue starts to form, you get all this chaos. Drivers hitting the brakes, trying to merge, creating all this turbulence. All that friction means the lanes that are still open can't work at full efficiency anymore. Just look at the graph here. The road's potential capacity is way up high, but the actual number of cars getting through that bottleneck is much lower. That gap, that's the capacity drop.
So now we have a system that can predict not just how long an incident will last, but also how badly it's going to mess up traffic flow. So what? What's the payoff? This is where it all comes together. By putting these two powerful predictions together, the how long and the how bad, traffic managers suddenly get a complete picture. They're not just looking at a dot on a map anymore. They're looking into the future of that incident and understanding exactly how it's going to unfold. And this allows for a total shift in how things are done. Before, managing an incident was pretty much reactive. It was all based on an operator's past experience and their best guess. But with a system like this, it becomes proactive. Decisions aren't made on a hunch anymore. They're made based on solid, reliable, data-driven predictions. And the ultimate goal is to have a tool that looks something like this. A live map that doesn't just put a little red pin where the accident is. It actually shows a dynamic forecast of how that big red traffic jam is going to grow and spread over the next 30, 60, maybe 90 minutes. It's that highway crystal ball brought to life.
And this quote from the lead researcher, Dr. Min-Soo Wan, just sums up the whole mission perfectly. The goal isn't to find some magic fix, but to build a really solid, reliable system that gives operators the information they need to make smarter and faster decisions.
So we're taking this incredibly advanced predictive science and aiming it at traffic, a problem that frustrates millions of us every single day. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other huge, complex problems in our daily lives, from messy supply chains to crowded emergency rooms, could we start to solve if we could just get a little better at predicting their future?